Have you ever felt when you're speaking to healthcare professionals that they're speaking another language, that medical speak and the terminology just goes over your head? Well, in childbirth, it's important to understand the terminology and be on the same page as your healthcare provider so that you can make the best decisions for you and your family. And in this video, I want to break down the concept of how a cervix changes in labor, and we're also going to cover an important concept called the Bishop score that can come into play if you are up against the decision about an induction. So in order to make this happen, I am going to use my trusty bullet journal, and we're going to break it down that way. Now, if we haven't met in real life, my name is Alice Turner. I'm a doula, a childbirth educator with an engineering background, and I'm here to help you be ready to have a positive birth experience. So let's do it. So the cervix, of course, is one of the most important parts of our anatomy when we're talking about birth. I like to think of the cervix as really the exit. And with the cervix, there are two ways that the cervix changes that most people talk about. And the first one is dilation, which is also known as opening. Now, with dilation, a totally closed cervix is considered 0 centimeters dilated to a fully open cervix, and that would be 10 centimeters dilated. So halfway through, we've got 5 centimeters. And then other points to note are our 6 centimeter dilation and our 8 centimeter dilation. Now, the time between 0 and 6 centimeters is called early labor. And then once we get to 6 centimeters, that is when our labor is considered to be active labor. And then at 8 centimeters is when we are considered to be in transition. Now, when we think about the other way that the cervix changes that we talk about a lot, and that is the effacement. Effacement is also known as the thinning of the cervix. So when you're pregnant and when the cervix is at its thickest point, it is considered 0% effaced. When you are at your thinnest point, it is considered 100% effaced. Halfway through would be 50% effaced. Now, if you're 10 centimeters dilated, 100% effaced, usually that is when your cervix is called complete. But there are actually 4 ways that the cervix changes. 2 of them aren't talked about as much, but I think it's important for you to know, especially if we talk about induction. So we have the cervical position, and the cervical position starts where the cervix is pointed in a posterior fashion, which means it's pointed towards the back of your body. As the cervix changes in labor, it is pointed finally anterior, and that's pointed to the front of your body. And halfway through, the positional change is considered either a midline cervix or you might hear called a middle cervix. So along with position, the cervix also changes in its consistency. So how the cervix actually feels to the touch. So in pregnancy, the cervix feels firm. And if we're halfway through our cervical change as far as consistency, it's called medium. And then when it's totally changed, it's called soft. Now, firm, we like to say, feels kind of like your forehead. So if you touch your forehead, feels a bit like that. A medium cervix feels a little bit like the tip of your nose, so a little bit more give. And a soft cervix feels more like your lips. Completely soft. So 4 ways the cervix can change. In addition to cervical change, another way to know that we are progressing in labor is to find out our baby's station. So station is how the baby is in relation to the pelvis. And this is measured by looking at where the top of the baby's head is in relation to the pelvis. So here I'm drawing a quick pelvis, use your imagination. Right at the ischial spines in the middle of the pelvis, it would be 0 station. Above that, the baby would be a -1, -2, or -3. And then below that would be a positive 1, 2, or 3. So as the baby leaves the middle of the pelvis, we see the numbers becoming positive. Of course, not drawn to scale. Now, we take these pieces of information, both the cervical change and the station, and if we can map that on something called a Bishop's score, it gives us somewhat of a prediction of the success of an induction. So if you find yourself with an induction in the future, you can ask what your Bishop score is. Or you can ask about each of the pieces of your cervix, each of the measurements of your cervix and your station, put those together to get your Bishop's score. And I'll draw a quick table for you here just so that you can see what that looks like. You can also find more information online. They do vary a little bit on the scoring, but all of them, of course, take into account the position of your cervix. If you are posterior, 0 score, middle 1, anterior 2, and then 3 would also, you wouldn't get a 3 for your position. Consistency, if your cervix is still firm, then a 0 score. If it's middle, medium, you get a 1, and then if soft already, you get 2. Now with the effacement, if your cervix is completely thick, 0% effaced to 30%, you get a 0. If your cervix has been thinning a little bit more, 40% to halfway thinned, it's 1. 60 to 70 is 2, and then 80 and above would be 3 points on the Bishop score. Now, when we look at dilation, if it's 0, completely closed, we've got a score of 0. 1 to 2 centimeters gets us a 1 score. 3 to 4 gets us a 2, and then if we're over 5 centimeters, we get a 3 score. Finally, the station, if we are in a -3 station, 0, -2, 1 point. 1 or 0 gets our 2 points, and then if we're 3, for 3 points, you have to be +1 or +2. The other things to keep in mind that if you have given birth, you get a +1 to your score for each previous vaginal birth that you have had. But if it is your first time birthing, you have to subtract a point from your total score. So you find out all of this information, you add up all of your numbers, and then what we do is look at the results. Greater than an 8, that will predict or indicate that your induction will likely be successful. But if your score is less than 5, it is an indication that your induction will likely be unsuccessful. So an unsuccessful induction is one that will not lead to a vaginal birth. So again, getting all of this information from your care provider can help you make decisions about your induction.